1996 was a great year for movies. You've got Primal Fear, Happy Gilmore, Fargo, The Frighteners, Jerry Maguire, and The Craft.
Light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Witchy goth babes in a Catholic school befriending the new girl into their little retinue of outsiders. We're talking crystals and mandalas and smudge sticks all way before they were cool. Back when they were actually kind of scary, a little bit risky. You got Fairuza Balk, Robin Tunney, Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich together, teaming up, warming up for their explosion onto the world in Scream later that same year. Was it earlier that year? Either way, it was still 1996. Now, I'm not saying The Craft was a cinematic masterpiece, though it did achieve a certain level of, you'll excuse the pun, cult status. And it does, to be awfully personal for a moment, hold a special place in my heart, as it does for many millennials, I'm sure. Now, I'm not some curmudgeonly old man that automatically hates any reboot, remake, reimagining, whatever made up word they're using to market and sell the copy and pasted version of some intellectual property that they know worked in the past. I gotta tell you, I did like the It remake. I really liked the Evil Dead remake. Even the Jumanji remake was fun. To be fair though, I think I do prefer the originals over all of those. Maybe I did like the new It more, though, that being said, and as good as Bill Skarsgård was, Tim Curry will forever haunt my nightmares as Pennywise the Clown. It's not that I had any dramatic high hopes for 2020's The Craft Legacy. It was on Netflix and I was scrolling through and literally was watching it 45 seconds after I found out that it existed. But given the non-existent expectations I had coming into this, I was surprised at how disappointed I was after the credits rolled. Or even well before the credits rolled, if I'm being perfectly honest. I was excited, I was surprised when I saw Michelle Moynihan pop up as the mum of Lily, the main character. And she kind of wants to be more of like a sister, best friend than she does a mum. And David Duchovny, who plays the stepfather, welcoming in this mother-daughter duo into his life, into his family. Welcomes them a little too eagerly, maybe. A little too fulsome. Maybe he's up to something, huh? Now, the plot unfolds the same way the original film did, with similar beats and changes, but without the connective tissue. None of the care given to the characters or time to develop the relationships between the girls that we were afforded in the 1996 offering. It's almost like they're rushing over the friendships and the relationships of these girls in the coven to then get to something else. It's like the TikTok version of the film. You know, it's a moment, and then it's another moment, and then it's another moment. It's a series of vignettes that are just rushing to get to something, and then when you finally get there, there's a whole lot of nothing. The climax of the film, which you can smell coming a mile off, arrives after this awkward kind of Harry Potter style magic battle with little to no build up, and it's resolved with even less fanfare. Oh, was that it? I'm not trying to be mean, but it kind of feels like a high school stage play production of the 96 film. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. The tension is very light and the dialogue is stiff as a board. Now, this isn't to say the film is completely irredeemable. The performances of Timmy and Libby and Tabby were all solid and grounded, and I mean even quite touching in a few moments, which, you know, is testament to the actors given the source material that they were working with. The film does a decent job of bringing in the behaviors and actions and conversations of current high school students, or I mean what I imagine high school students would concern themselves with. It's representing this generation on screen with a degree of alacrity. But then after that, it kind of seems to toss out all respect for the viewer and just smears on this heavy didactic message that just gets thicker and thicker, as if to say like, hey, did you get it? But like, did you get it? Did you get it though? The main antagonist becomes this two-dimensional, cringeworthy caricature of a villain, which distracts from the heart of the film, which should really be about the internal struggles that these girls are going through, discovering their latent powers and wrestling with how they should, if indeed they should at all, use them. It devoids itself of all responsibility and turns it into this broad clunky, vaguely political statement that makes the conflict of the film almost entirely external and glosses over all the stuff that made the original so deep and moving and touching and long lasting. The final sequence is great and does much heavy lifting in an attempt to salvage what came before it, while also setting up, but not necessitating, a sequel. I don't know if the writing was rushed, I don't know if the editor was ruthless, but it all just feels quite disjointed and kind of like a first draft. It's like someone explaining to you what the first film was. Not my cup of tea, if I'm being honest. Bit of a letdown, but then again, I'm let down every time I'm at the red light and I can't change it to green with my intention. Relax, it's only magic. Relax, it's only a remake.